Welcome to the world of science function. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. The two alien guards stood by the bar, their metallic exoskeletons glinting in the dim, smoky light of the interstellar dive. They exchanged a glance, their antennae twitching in amusement as they surveyed the bartender. "Look at this one," one said in a guttural, echoing voice, pointing with a clawed appendage at the lone figure cleaning a glass behind the counter. "A human. Must have been hard up to end up in a joint like this." The other guard snorted, the sound a rasping scrape, and leaned closer. "They're always so fragile. One swipe from me and he'd snap like a twig." Behind the bar, the bartender continued his work, seemingly oblivious to their taunts. His movements were calm and methodical, but his sharp eyes flicked briefly toward them, assessing, before returning to his task. He was an unremarkable figure at first glance, short-cropped gray hair, weathered features, and a physique that suggested the wiry strength of someone used to hard work. His name tag read Sam. The dive was on Epsilon 6, a seedy outpost orbiting a dying star. It was a magnet for smugglers, bounty hunters, and outlaws, a place where everyone minded their own business, or else. Tonight, the room buzzed with the low hum of interstellar chatter, the clink of glasses, and the faint, eerie melody of an automated band in the corner. The alien guards, clad in the standard-issue armor of the Zoller Dominion, were clearly off-duty and drunk on more than just the glowing blue liquid in their glasses. Their bulky forms towered over the bar as they exchanged more jibes about the human's fragility, their voices loud enough to turn heads. Sam set the glass down and looked at them, his face impassive. He leaned casually on the counter, meeting their gaze. "Anything else I can get you?" he asked, his voice steady. The first guard slammed his drink down, the impact rattling nearby glasses. "Yeah. You can tell us why a pathetic species like yours thinks it deserves a place in the galaxy. Weak little creatures like you should have stayed on your rock." A few patrons looked away, clearly wanting no part of the brewing confrontation. Sam didn't flinch. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes narrowing. "You got a problem with humans?" The second guard stepped closer, his mandibles clicking in what might have been a grin. "What are you gonna do about it, bartender? Cry? Call your little Earth friends?" Sam exhaled slowly, placing his hands on the bar. The other patrons felt the air change, a tension so subtle and cold it seemed to suck the noise from the room. The automated band stuttered, their programming detecting the shift. "You know," Sam said, his voice low, "when I was younger, people used to talk like you. They had the same bravado, the same attitude." He straightened, his weathered face taking on an unreadable expression. "Funny thing is, they're all dead now." The first guard sneered, raising one clawed hand. "What are you saying, little man? That you've seen some action? Fought a few street thugs?" The bartender's lips curled into a smile, a faint, humorless expression. He began rolling up his sleeves, revealing forearms laced with old scars, tattoos that marked him as a veteran of wars long past. The second guard hesitated, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the tattoos. Recognition flickered. "Wait. Those markings, they're from..." Sam moved faster than any human, or alien, should have been able to. In a blur, he snatched the guard's wrist, twisting it in a movement so fluid and precise it seemed effortless. The alien cried out, his voice a screech that echoed through the bar. Before the other guard could react, Sam had yanked a hidden blade from beneath the bar and pressed it against his captive's throat. The blade glinted under the flickering neon lights, its edge vibrating faintly with lethal energy. The room froze. Every patron held their breath, staring at the scene in stunned silence. "You're right," Sam said, his tone casual, as if they were discussing the weather. "I've fought a few thugs. And I've killed more Dominion soldiers than I care to count." The second guard whimpered, his mandibles quivering. "Impossible. You're just a bartender?" Sam finished for him, tightening his grip. The guard yelped. "That's the funny thing about people. You never know their history." The first guard stepped back, his confidence visibly shaken. Let him go, he snarled, though his voice wavered. Sam tilted his head again, considering, then released the guard with a shove. The alien stumbled back, clutching his throat, his eyes wide with fear. Get out, Sam said, his voice cold and firm. Before I decide you're not worth the trouble. The two guards scrambled for the exit, their bravado gone. As the doors hissed shut behind them, the bar erupted in whispers. Who is he? Did you see that? Is he military? Sam picked up the glass he'd been cleaning, his expression unreadable. Without a word, he resumed his work, the room's chatter gradually returning to normal. At the far end of the bar, a cloaked figure watched him, their face obscured in shadow. They leaned forward, their voice cutting through the din like a blade. Earth's most feared soldier, hiding out as a bartender. I didn't believe it until now. Sam glanced up but said nothing, his eyes betraying no emotion. The figure leaned closer. You can't run from your past forever, Sam. For a moment, he froze, the weight of the words settling over him. Then, with a sigh, he returned to cleaning the glass. Maybe, he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. But I'll sure as hell try. The dive bar was back to its usual hum of conversation and clinking glasses, but the tension lingered in the air like static electricity. Sam moved through the motions, serving drinks, taking orders, cleaning surfaces, but his mind was elsewhere. The cloaked figure's words echoed in his head, stirring memories he had long buried. Across the room, the mysterious figure remained seated, their hood obscuring their features. They nursed a drink, their movements slow and deliberate, clearly in no rush to leave. Sam noticed them from the corner of his eye, their presence a persistent itch he couldn't ignore. Refill, he asked the nervous patron at the counter, his tone neutral. The customer nodded, their gaze darting toward the figure in the corner. Who is that? The patron whispered, their voice barely audible over the din. Sam didn't answer. He poured another drink, setting it down with a precision that belied his unease. He had lived through too many battles, too many ambushes, to mistake the figure for an ordinary traveler. No one came to a place like this without a reason, and whoever they were, they hadn't come for the ambience. A low beep interrupted his thoughts. Sam instinctively reached into his pocket and withdrew a small device, a personal communicator he hadn't used in years. Its cracked screen flickered to life, displaying a single line of text, "He's coming." Sam's blood ran cold. He quickly pocketed the device, his mind racing. Only one person could have sent that message, and if they were warning him, it meant trouble was closer than he'd anticipated. He glanced around the bar, his trained eyes scanning for exits, cover, and potential threats. Most of the patrons were harmless, a mix of traders, drifters, and low-level criminals, but a few stood out. A hulking figure in a far booth nursed a drink while occasionally glancing toward the door. Another patron, cloaked like the figure in the corner, seemed to be fiddling with something under the table. Sam's instincts screamed at him. He couldn't afford to wait for whatever was coming. He wiped his hands on a towel and walked toward the cloaked figure at the corner table. "You've been sitting here a while," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Can I get you something else?" The figure tilted their head, the faint glint of a metallic jawline catching the light beneath their hood. "I've been waiting for you, Sam." Sam stiffened. "You've got the wrong guy." The figure chuckled, a hollow, mechanical sound. "Do I? Or have you just spent too long pretending to be someone you're not?" Sam clenched his jaw, his fingers twitching toward the hidden blade at his waist. "I don't know who you think I am, but I'd suggest you leave." The figure leaned forward, pulling back their hood. Their face was a mixture of flesh and machine, a cybernetic implant stretching from their jaw to their temple. A pair of piercing eyes locked onto Sam's, unflinching. "You're Samuel Riggs, call sign Ghost, former captain of the Earth Special Operations Unit. The man who single-handedly turned the tide of the Zoller War. The man who disappeared after the armistice." They paused, letting the words hang in the air. "You can deny it all you want, but I know who you are." "And so does he." Sam's heart pounded, but his face betrayed nothing. "I've heard a lot of stories in this bar. Yours is the least believable. The cyborg smirked. Then why are your hands shaking? Sam quickly withdrew his hand from the counter, cursing himself for the slip. The cyborg leaned back, their smirk widening. You can't hide forever, Ghost. He's coming for you, and when he does, this whole place is going to burn. Who's coming? Sam demanded, his voice low but dangerous. The cyborg's smile faded. You know who? Commander Kale. He hasn't forgiven you for what happened at the Battle of Helios Prime. And he's not coming alone. Sam's grip on the counter tightened. Kale. The name hit him like a sledgehammer, dredging up memories of chaos, betrayal, and fire. Kale had been his greatest adversary, a ruthless strategist and a relentless foe who had narrowly escaped death at Helios Prime. If Kale was coming, it meant the peace Sam had carved out for himself was about to shatter. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts. One of the patrons, a massive alien with 4 arms, had flipped a table, sending drinks and glasses scattering. I don't like being watched, the alien bellowed, pointing a thick, clawed finger at the hulking figure in the booth. The bar erupted into chaos. Patrons scrambled for cover as the 2 aliens squared off, snarling and flexing their claws. Sam instinctively moved to defuse the situation, but the cyborg grabbed his arm. Leave them, they said. They're just a distraction. Before Sam could respond, the doors to the bar slammed open, and a squad of heavily armed Zoller Dominion soldiers marched in. Their black armor gleamed under the neon lights, and their rifles were already raised. Everyone, stay where you are, barked the squad leader, his voice amplified by a helmet speaker. We're here for the human known as Samuel Riggs. Hand him over, and the rest of you can leave unharmed. The patrons froze, their eyes darting toward Sam. The hulking alien who had started the fight took one look at the soldiers, growled, and backed away. The room fell deathly silent. Sam's mind raced. He could see the fear in the patrons' eyes, the soldiers' rifles trained on him, the exits blocked. There was no way out, at least, not for everyone. The cyborg beside him rose slowly, their movements deliberate. You've got 2 choices, they murmured. Fight, or die. Sam exhaled, his gaze sweeping the room. He wasn't ready for this, but he didn't have a choice. Slowly, he reached beneath the bar, his fingers closing around the hilt of an old, familiar weapon. If you want me, he said, stepping forward and leveling the blade at the squad leader, come and get me. The soldiers raised their rifles, the barrels humming with lethal energy. And then the room exploded into motion. The first shot screamed through the air, its plasma trail illuminating the dim dive bar in a blinding flash of green. Sam ducked behind the counter just as the searing bolt obliterated a shelf of bottles behind him, sending glass and liquid cascading in a glittering arc. Pandemonium erupted. Patrons scrambled for cover, overturning tables and chairs as the Zoller Dominion soldiers moved with mechanical precision, their rifles trained on the bar. The hulking alien who had been arguing moments ago lunged at one of the soldiers, claws outstretched, only to be met with a devastating plasma round to the chest. The alien crumpled to the floor, smoke rising from the gaping wound. Sam's breathing slowed, his instincts taking over. He reached beneath the counter, fingers brushing past a dusty bottle of whiskey before finding the hidden compartment. From it, he drew a compact plasma pistol and a small, disc-shaped device. He slapped the device onto his wrist, its interface lighting up with a faint blue glow as it calibrated to his neural inputs. The cyborg, still standing amidst the chaos, pulled a pistol from their cloak and fired with practiced precision. Their shot struck one of the soldiers in the neck joint, exploiting a weakness in the armor. The soldier convulsed briefly before collapsing, their rifle clattering to the ground. You're not bad, the cyborg said, ducking behind a table as another shot whizzed past their head. But I hope you've got more than bar tricks up your sleeve. Sam peeked over the counter, his sharp eyes assessing the battlefield. 6 soldiers remained, their movements coordinated, their focus entirely on him. He spotted an overturned table nearby, its metal frame offering partial cover. He would need to move fast. You talk too much, Sam muttered as he leapt over the counter. He landed in a crouch, firing 2 quick shots. One plasma bolt hit a soldier square in the chest, sending them sprawling. The other grazed another's helmet, disrupting their visor and forcing them to retreat momentarily. The soldiers responded with a barrage of fire, their shots tearing through tables and walls, the air heavy with the acrid stench of burnt fabric and metal. Sam rolled to the overturned table, his wrist-mounted device activating mid-roll. A shimmering energy shield flickered to life around him, deflecting several incoming shots. The cyborg joined him behind the table, their mechanical eye glowing faintly. Nice shield. Old Earth military tech? Sam fired another shot, taking down a soldier who had exposed themselves. Yeah. Came with a steep price tag. You want to discuss gear, or do you want to help me clear this room? The cyborg grinned, their teeth flashing metallic. Fair point. They darted out from behind the table, firing rapidly as they moved. Their shots were precise, forcing the soldiers to shift focus. Sam used the distraction to activate the device on his wrist again. This time, a pulse of energy radiated outward, short-circuiting the lights and plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, the only illumination came from the faint glow of weapons and the flickering sparks from damaged electronics. Sam's augmented vision kicked in, bathing the scene in shades of green and highlighting the soldiers' heat signatures. He moved like a ghost, silent and deadly. He darted behind one soldier, slicing through their armor with a plasma-edged blade. The soldier collapsed without a sound. Sam grabbed the soldier's rifle and hurled it toward the bar, where it exploded on impact, drawing the remaining soldiers' attention. The cyborg was equally efficient, their movements fluid and relentless. They ducked and weaved through the chaos, their pistol barking with every step. Another soldier fell, their rifle slipping from lifeless hands. By the time the lights flickered back on, only 2 soldiers remained. They stood near the entrance, their weapons raised, their postures tense. Stand down, one of them shouted, their voice strained. We'll call for reinforcements. Sam stepped forward, his pistol aimed squarely at the soldier's head. You'll do no such thing. Before either soldier could react, the cyborg flanked them, their pistol pressed against the temple of one soldier. Drop your weapons, they growled, their voice cold. The soldiers hesitated, their eyes darting between Sam and the cyborg. Then, with a clatter, their rifles hit the floor. Smart move, Sam said, lowering his weapon but keeping his grip firm. He glanced at the cyborg. We need answers. The cyborg nodded and gestured for one of the soldiers to kneel. The soldier complied, their armor creaking as they hit the ground. Kale sent you, didn't he? Sam demanded, his voice a low growl. The soldier hesitated, then nodded. He knows you're here. This was just the first wave. He'll burn this whole sector to find you. Sam clenched his jaw. Of course Kale wouldn't stop with a simple strike team. He'd send everything he had, and collateral damage wouldn't bother him in the slightest. What does he want? Sam pressed. The soldier's helmet tilted slightly, their voice trembling. Revenge. And something you stole from him. He called it, the catalyst. Sam's stomach dropped. He hadn't heard that name in years, but the memory of it burned like a fresh wound. Before he could ask more, the cyborg pulled the trigger, their shot silencing the soldier mid-sentence. The second soldier scrambled backward, their hands raised. Why did you do that? Sam snapped. The cyborg didn't flinch. Because he was stalling. Reinforcements will be here any second, and we don't have time for stories. Sam turned to the remaining soldier, who was shaking visibly. Go, Sam said, his voice low. Tell Kale I'm coming for him. The soldier didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled to their feet and bolted out the door. The bar was silent now, save for the crackling of damaged electronics. Sam holstered his pistol and turned to the cyborg. What's your stake in this? The cyborg smirked, their cybernetic eye whirring faintly. Let's just say I have a score to settle with Kale too. And if you want to survive what's coming, you're going to need my help. Sam eyed them warily, the weight of the soldier's words still pressing on him. The catalyst. Cale wasn't just after revenge, he was after something far more dangerous. The sound of distant engines drew their attention. Sam looked toward the shattered windows and saw the faint glow of incoming dropships on the horizon. "We've got company," the cyborg said, reloading their pistol. Sam sighed, his grip tightening on his weapon. "Then we'd better get moving." The distant hum of engines grew louder, resonating through the air like an ominous drumbeat. Outside the shattered windows, the faint glow of approaching dropships reflected off the desolate landscape of Epsilon 6. Sam stood at the center of the wrecked bar, his expression hard as steel. The cyborg holstered their pistol, their mechanical eyes scanning the horizon. 4 dropships. Heavy armor. We can't fight them here. Sam nodded, his mind already calculating their options. Agreed. We'll lead them away from the civilians. There's an abandoned refinery a few clicks east. Plenty of cover, and far enough from town to keep the collateral to a minimum. Smart, the cyborg said. But it's going to take more than just the 2 of us to hold off Cale's forces. Sam stepped behind the bar, retrieving a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. He pulled out a small, weathered box and opened it to reveal a sleek, compact device with glowing blue circuits, the catalyst. The cyborg's mechanical eye widened slightly. "So it's true. You still have it." Sam didn't answer immediately. His gaze lingered on the catalyst, a mixture of regret and resolve flashing across his face. "This thing was supposed to end the war," he said quietly. "Instead, it nearly destroyed everything." The cyborg's voice was sharp. "And Cale wants it to finish the job." Sam slammed the box shut. "Which is why we can't let him have it." The sound of boots pounding on the ground outside jolted them into action. Sam strapped the catalyst to his belt and grabbed a modified plasma rifle from the bar's armory. The cyborg pulled out a grenade from their cloak, their grin sharp as a blade. "Let's make this interesting," they said, tossing the grenade toward the door. The blast tore through the entrance just as the first wave of soldiers stormed in. The explosion sent debris flying, scattering the soldiers and buying Sam and the cyborg a few precious seconds. They bolted for the back exit, moving in sync like seasoned partners. The alley behind the bar was narrow and dimly lit, the perfect place for an ambush. Sam motioned for the cyborg to take cover behind a stack of crates while he knelt by the corner, his rifle trained on the exit. The soldiers were quick to regroup. Their leader, clad in black armor adorned with Cale's insignia, barked orders through his helmet comms. "Fan out. He's got the catalyst. Do not let him escape." Sam fired the first shot, the plasma bolt striking a soldier square in the chest. The cyborg followed up with a flurry of suppressive fire, their aim precise and unrelenting. The narrow alley funneled the soldiers into a kill zone, but their numbers were overwhelming. "We can't hold them here," the cyborg shouted over the din. "They'll just keep coming." Sam nodded, his jaw clenched. "We fall back to the refinery." "Move!" They broke into a sprint, weaving through the labyrinth of back alleys. The soldiers pursued relentlessly, their heavy boots pounding against the ground. Plasma bolts hissed past, narrowly missing their targets and leaving scorch marks on the walls. The refinery loomed in the distance, its skeletal framework a shadowy silhouette against the pale light of Epsilon VI's dying sun. Sam and the cyborg reached the outskirts, their breath heavy but steady. The refinery's maze of pipes and machinery offered plenty of opportunities for guerrilla tactics. "Set traps," Sam ordered. "We'll funnel them through the lower levels and pick them off one by one." The cyborg nodded, their mechanical hand deftly rigging explosives to key structural points. "What's the plan after that?" Sam hesitated. "We make sure the catalyst is out of Cale's reach, no matter what." The cyborg paused, their gaze narrowing. "Even if it means destroying it?" Sam's expression darkened. "Especially if it means destroying it." The soldiers closed in, their voices echoing through the refinery. Sam and the cyborg slipped into the shadows, their movements silent and deliberate. The first wave entered cautiously, their rifles sweeping the area. Sam activated his wrist device, triggering one of the traps. A series of explosive charges detonated, collapsing a section of the refinery and cutting off the soldiers' advance. The chaos gave Sam and the cyborg an opening to strike. They moved like shadows, their attacks precise and devastating. Sam's plasma rifle hummed with deadly energy, each shot finding its mark. The cyborg's movements were fluid and unpredictable, their cybernetic enhancements giving them an edge in speed and strength. Despite their efforts, the soldiers pressed on, their sheer numbers threatening to overwhelm. Sam and the cyborg retreated deeper into the refinery, the catalyst glowing faintly at Sam's side. "How much longer can we keep this up?" the cyborg asked, their voice strained. Sam didn't answer. His focus was on the fight, his instincts honed from years of warfare. But he knew the truth, time was running out. A thunderous roar shook the refinery, and a new figure emerged from the shadows. Commander Kale. His armor was a menacing black, adorned with crimson markings that signified his rank. He carried a massive plasma sword, its blade crackling with raw energy. "Riggs!" Kale's voice boomed, amplified by his helmet. "You've run long enough. Face me." Sam stepped forward, his rifle raised. The cyborg moved to follow, but Sam held up a hand. "This is my fight." Kale's laughter echoed through the refinery. "Still the hero, I see. But you've already lost. Hand over the catalyst, and I might let you live." Sam smirked, his grip tightening on his weapon. "You know me better than that, Kale." The two clashed, their weapons colliding in a blaze of energy. Kale's strength was formidable, his strikes powerful enough to shatter steel. But Sam was quick, his years of experience giving him the upper hand in strategy. The fight was brutal, each blow shaking the refinery. Kale managed to disarm Sam, sending his rifle skittering across the floor. But as Kale raised his plasma sword for the final strike, Sam activated the catalyst. A burst of energy erupted from the device, enveloping the refinery in a blinding light. Kale screamed as the energy consumed him, his form disintegrating into ash. The soldiers still remaining fell to the ground, their systems short-circuited by the blast. When the light faded, the refinery was silent. Sam stood in the center of the devastation, the catalyst sparking weakly in his hands. The cyborg approached, their expression unreadable. "Is it over?" Sam stared at the catalyst, then at the ruined refinery. "For now." He handed the device to the cyborg. "Find someone who can destroy it for good." "And you?" the cyborg asked. Sam glanced at the horizon, where the faint glow of dawn was breaking through the darkness. "I've got more ghosts to bury." With that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving the catalyst, in his past, behind. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories.